Did you know that more than 1.2 billion balloons are produced every single year around the globe? That's right, billion with a B. To put that in perspective, that's more balloons than the entire population of many large countries combined. It's a staggering number when you think about it, and it instantly makes you realize just how much joy, celebration, and fun these small, colorful spheres of rubber bring to people everywhere. Balloons are more than just decorations. They've become symbols of happiness, surprise, and even nostalgia. Whether it's a child gripping a balloon at a birthday party, a bouquet of helium-filled balloons floating at a graduation, or even massive balloon arches marking the start of a marathon, these playful creations are everywhere in American life. But have you ever stopped to wonder, how exactly are balloons made? What journey does latex go through before it turns into something that floats high above a backyard barbecue or fills the ceiling at a New Year's Eve party? Today we're taking you behind the scenes of balloon production, inside the fascinating world where raw latex is transformed into the balloons we all know and love. Buckle up because this surprisingly detailed process may just blow your mind. The story of balloons is much older than you might imagine. Believe it or not, the very first balloons didn't come from rubber at all but from animal bladders. It sounds strange today, but in ancient times people would take the bladder of a pig or goat, inflate it, and use it as a toy or primitive entertainment device. It might not sound like the most glamorous or sanitary plaything, but back then it was pure fun for kids. Fast forward to the early 19th century and we meet Michael Faraday, the brilliant English scientist best known for his work with electricity and magnetism. In 1824, while experimenting with hydrogen gas, Faraday created the first rubber balloons by cutting 2 sheets of rubber and pressing the edges together, then inflating them with gas. He probably had no idea that his little experiment would ignite a new industry of party fun. Just a few years later, Thomas Hancock, a British rubber manufacturer, decided to commercialize balloons by selling do-it-yourself balloon kits. Imagine being in your Victorian-era living room, assembling your own balloons as a weekend activity. It's quirky but it worked, and soon balloons were finding their way into households across Europe. The real revolution came in the 1930s with the introduction of latex balloons. Unlike pure rubber sheets, latex, a milky white sap harvested from rubber trees, was easier to process and more versatile. Latex balloons could be dipped, molded, and dyed into virtually any color, making them perfect for festive occasions. Before long, these latex wonders were the go-to choice for birthdays, parades, school dances, and eventually large-scale events like political rallies or sporting championships. Balloons even took on a role in advertising, with companies printing logos or slogans onto them. Over the years, the industry expanded further with the invention of mylar balloons, which are shinier, more durable, and capable of holding helium for much longer than latex balloons. From pig bladders to scientific experiments to the rainbow-colored displays you see at every celebration today, the history of balloons is an unlikely but fascinating journey. But history is only part of the story. The real magic happens inside balloon factories, where modern technology transforms raw latex into millions of perfectly shaped balloons every year. It all begins with the latex itself, which comes from the Hevea brasiliensis tree, commonly known as the rubber tree. These trees grow in tropical regions like Southeast Asia, and harvesting latex is a bit like tapping a maple tree for syrup. Workers carefully score the bark, and milky white latex sap drips out into small cups. Collecting this latex requires patience, precision, and respect for the tree, since improper tapping can damage it. Once collected, the latex is filtered and transported to factories where it begins its incredible transformation. At the factory, vats of liquid latex are first prepared and mixed. Pure latex is actually colorless and milky, not the vivid rainbow you might imagine. To make it party-ready, manufacturers add special dyes and pigments. Picture an entire warehouse filled with giant mixing tanks. One batch turning bright red, another a deep ocean blue, another sunny yellow. With just the right mix of colorants and stabilizers, the latex becomes uniform and ready for shaping. This is where balloon molds come into play. These molds are shaped like long thin sticks, mimicking the form of an uninflated balloon. Hundreds, sometimes thousands, of these molds are mounted on a conveyor system, moving slowly through the production line. The first stop is a dip into a coagulant solution, which helps the latex stick to the molds. Then the molds are dipped into the colored latex itself. As the molds emerge, each one is coated with a thin film of latex that clings tightly to the surface. This dipping process is repeated if necessary to achieve the desired thickness, because no one wants a balloon that pops the second it's inflated. After the coating is applied, the molds pass through heated ovens that cure the latex, making it elastic and durable. The heat treatment is essential because it locks the latex into its final form and prevents it from degrading too quickly. Once cured, the balloons must be removed from the molds, a process called stripping. Workers or machines gently peel the balloons off, and this is often when the signature rolled edge or lip of the balloon is formed. This lip makes it possible to tie a knot later. The stripped balloons are then washed and dried to remove any leftover chemicals. At this stage, they finally look like the deflated balloons you'd recognize in a party store package. But the work isn't done yet. Balloons are inspected for defects, tested for elasticity, and sorted by color and size. Any that don't pass quality control are discarded, because safety and reliability are key. No one wants balloons that burst prematurely at a party. Another fascinating part of balloon production is the inflation testing. Random samples from each batch are inflated to ensure they can stretch without tearing. Imagine watching rows of balloons being blown up by machines until they're 3, 4, or even 5 times their original size, all to confirm their strength. Only the toughest balloons make the cut. Once approved, the balloons are counted, packaged, and boxed up for shipment. From there, they travel to party stores, supermarkets, event planners, and online retailers, ready to bring joy to millions of celebrations across the country. Helium balloons deserve their own mention, because they've become iconic in American culture. Helium, a lighter-than-air gas, allows balloons to float gracefully in the sky, making them perfect for parades, weddings, or just delighting kids. The process for helium balloons is the same as for regular latex balloons, but they're often slightly thicker or designed to hold gas longer. Mylar balloons, those shiny metallic ones you see at grocery stores with messages like, "Happy Birthday," or, "Get well soon," are even more advanced. They're made by heat-sealing thin sheets of plastic coated with a metallic finish. These balloons hold helium much longer, sometimes weeks compared to hours with latex, and can be printed with detailed graphics. They've become a staple of American celebrations, often paired with flowers, candy, or gift baskets. While balloons are beloved, they've also sparked conversations about sustainability. Latex balloons are technically biodegradable, since natural latex comes from trees, but they don't disappear instantly. It can take months or even years for a balloon left in the environment to fully break down. This has led to concerns about balloon releases, where large groups of balloons are intentionally set free into the sky. Once they pop and fall back to Earth, they can harm wildlife or create litter. In response, many communities in the U.S. have started banning mass balloon releases and encouraging people to dispose of balloons responsibly. The industry has also been innovating with more eco-friendly practices, such as improving the biodegradability of latex or encouraging reusable balloon decorations. Mylar balloons, on the other hand, are not biodegradable, but they can be reused and even recycled in some facilities. It's a reminder that while balloons bring joy, we also need to be mindful of their impact. Despite these concerns, balloons continue to play a huge role in American celebrations. From massive balloon drops at Times Square on New Year's Eve to the iconic Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade with its giant character balloons, they're woven into the cultural fabric. For children, balloons are pure magic, something so simple yet endlessly entertaining. For adults, they're a nostalgic reminder of birthdays, school dances, or the first bouquet someone ever gifted them. That's the true charm of balloons. They may be made in factories through a careful process of latex dipping and curing, but once inflated, they become symbols of joy, celebration, and memory. Have you ever stopped for a second at a birthday party, a festival, or even a big parade and wondered where those bright, colorful balloons actually come from? We take them for granted as simple decorations, but behind every balloon there's a fascinating story of craftsmanship, science, and technology working together to turn raw liquid latex into something that can float through the air and instantly make us smile. Balloons aren't just party favors, they're symbols of joy, celebration, and childhood memories. And today we're taking you inside the incredible world of balloon manufacturing to see exactly how these stretchy, vibrant wonders are made. By the end of this journey, you might never look at a balloon the same way again. The process begins with a simple question. If you were designing your own balloon, what would you focus on first? Would it be the bright, eye-catching color, the playful shape, the perfect size, or maybe the durable material that keeps it from popping too quickly? Most people might say color because balloons are all about catching attention. But before the colors ever appear, the foundation of every balloon is shaped in a factory using molds and vats of liquid latex. This is where the real magic begins. Imagine stepping into a massive factory floor where hundreds of metal molds are suspended in neat rows. Each mold is shaped like a teardrop, a circle, or another fun balloon form. These molds glide down a conveyor line, dipping smoothly into large vats filled with vibrant, liquid latex. It almost looks like dipping cookies into icing, except instead of sweet treats you're making balloons. As the molds rise up, a thin layer of latex clings to the surface. That thin film is the beginning of a balloon, fragile and barely visible at first, but destined to become something strong and elastic enough to hold air, helium, or even water. Watching this process feels oddly satisfying, like the factory itself is painting the sky one balloon at a time. Once the molds have been dipped, the latex coating isn't ready to go just yet. The balloons need to be strengthened in a process known as drying and vulcanizing. If the dipping step is like frosting a cookie, then this stage is like baking it, except instead of ovens filled with chocolate chip treats, these ovens are carefully calibrated to control heat and airflow. Inside, the latex undergoes vulcanization, a process that makes it stretchy, durable, and far less likely to tear. Without this step, balloons would simply collapse or burst before they ever reached your party. The science here is fascinating. Controlled heat activates chemical bonds in the latex, transforming it from a sticky liquid film into a flexible material that can inflate many times its size. After drying, the factory floor hums with precision as automated machines carefully strip the balloons from their molds. It's almost like peeling cookies off a tray, only this time the stakes are higher. If the machines tug too hard, the balloons could tear. If they don't grip correctly, the balloon might not release. It's an oddly delicate process handled with robotic precision. Once free, the balloons aren't quite ready to be bagged up and sold. They must first be washed to remove any powder, residues, or imperfections from the molding process. They're then dried again, fluttering lightly as warm air rushes through them like clothes in a dryer. At this point, you can really start to see the familiar shapes and vibrant hues that make balloons so irresistible. Color and design come next, and this is where balloons transform from simple objects into playful works of art. Some are given solid colors, others get festive polka dots, and some even have custom logos or messages printed on them. Special machines apply these patterns with precision, stamping out designs that instantly make each balloon stand out. Imagine walking into a store and seeing rows of plain, colorless balloons. It just wouldn't feel the same. These decorative touches are what give balloons their charm, making them ready for birthdays, weddings, parades, or even company events. But here's something most people don't realize. Every balloon goes through a final inspection before it's ever packaged. Skilled workers carefully examine each batch, checking for holes, misshapen forms, or weak spots that could ruin the experience for whoever buys them. A balloon with even the tiniest flaw won't make it past this stage. It's amazing to think about because when you hold a balloon in your hand at a party, you probably never imagined that it passed a quality control process. Yet without these inspections, half the balloons we buy would pop before we even tied them. Once approved, the balloons move to the packaging stage where they're sorted, bundled, and sealed into bright plastic bags. From there, they're distributed worldwide, showing up in stores, party supply shops, and event warehouses. The next time you see balloons floating at a graduation or watch them released into the air at a sporting event, you'll know they likely started as a thin film of latex in a factory, shaped by molds, strengthened by heat, decorated with care, and passed through strict inspection before finally landing in your hands. Of course, balloons aren't just fun, they're also part of larger cultural traditions. In the US, balloons are everywhere. From the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade with its towering helium-filled giants, to water balloon fights on hot summer afternoons, to balloon arches at weddings and corporate events, they've become symbols of joy and togetherness. Kids love them because they float, bounce, and sparkle with color. Adults love them because they instantly transform an ordinary space into a celebration. But behind that joy lies an important question. What happens when the balloons deflate, burst, or get released into the sky? That's where the environmental side of balloon production comes in. While traditional balloons have long been criticized for contributing to waste and wildlife hazards, many companies are now switching to biodegradable latex options. These balloons break down much faster in nature, reducing their impact on the environment. Some states and cities in the US have even restricted large balloon releases to protect birds, turtles, and marine animals that might mistake balloon fragments for food. Instead, event planners are encouraged to reuse balloons, inflate them with air instead of helium, or explore alternatives like paper lanterns, fabric banners, or reusable balloon garlands. It's proof that we can still enjoy the fun of balloons while being more mindful of our planet. So the next time you blow up a balloon, take a second to think about the journey it took to get there. From the dipping molds that remind us of baking cookies, to the high-tech ovens that strengthen the latex, to the printing machines that add those fun patterns, and finally the hands of workers inspecting every single piece, it's an entire hidden world of manufacturing behind what seems like a simple decoration. Balloons might look light and effortless when they float above a party, but they carry with them the hard work of hundreds of people, advanced machines, and decades of refining the production process. And that's really what makes balloons magical. They're not just thin pieces of rubber filled with air, they're a perfect blend of science, engineering, and creativity. Whether you're holding one at a child's birthday party, watching giant helium balloons float above New York City streets, or even tossing water balloons with friends in the backyard, you're holding the result of a global industry that's dedicated to spreading joy. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest things in life, like a balloon, can bring the biggest smiles. So, which part of the balloon-making process surprised you the most? Was it the cookie-like dipping molds, the high-tech drying ovens, the colorful decorating machines, or the final inspection step that ensures every balloon is party-ready? Whatever your answer, one thing is certain: the next time you see a balloon, you'll appreciate the science and effort that went into making it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll think twice before letting one float away into the sky, knowing that while balloons are made to bring happiness, they're also part of a bigger responsibility to protect the world around us. Thanks for joining us on this behind-the-scenes journey into balloon manufacturing. If you enjoyed exploring how everyday items are made, from the machines that dip molds to the ovens that strengthen latex, stick around for more fascinating insights into the factories that shape our world. After all, every product has a story, and balloons just happen to be one of the most colorful ones.